After a rousing start to 2017, middle market companies settled down in the second quarter, delivering a solid performance and demonstrating once again that when you look for leadership in the U.S. economy, you'll find it in the middle. We track the middle market's performance at the National Center for the Middle Market, and we'll look at what the numbers show us and what they portend about the future growth of mid-sized companies and the U.S. economy as a whole. To check out the latest middle market indicator, go to this URL. I'm Tom Stewart, the Executive Director of the National Center for the Middle Market at The Ohio State University Fisher College of Business, with the latest numbers from the Middle Market Indicator for the second quarter of 2017. The Middle Market Indicator, the MMI, is a pulse check for companies with revenues between $10 million a year and $1 billion a year. That's the middle market. It accounts for roughly a third of private sector employment and GDP, a third from companies that are smaller, a third from companies that are larger. The data for the second quarter were collected in the first 2 weeks of June 2017. The Middle Market Indicator for the second quarter of 2017 shows strong revenue growth, 6.7% on an annualized basis, which is a hair above the 6.6% average that we've seen for the last 5 years. This is a drop from the ebullient 9.2% we reported 3 months ago. Indeed, that first quarter middle market indicator seems to have been robust in almost every dimension. But there's nothing shabby about 6.7% growth. It once again is well above the growth turned in by the companies in the S&P 500, as middle market companies took advantage of the fact that they have room to run to run. Growth was also widespread. 65% of middle market companies say that their performance improved last year compared to the year before, and only 5% reported deteriorating results, which is the lowest number that we've seen. It was the biggest companies in the middle market, those with revenues between $100 million and $1 billion a year, that led the way. Their average growth rate was 8%, 1.3 points higher than the middle market as a whole. These bigger companies have been fueling their growth by investing in new capacity, new markets, and new products. They are more likely than their smaller brethren to have expanded into new domestic or overseas markets, to have added new plants or facilities, and they also spend a higher percentage of their already larger revenues on research and development. Now, from an industry perspective, the second quarter shows strong performance across the board. The construction industry, which reported 20% growth last quarter, came back to earth with 7.4% growth. The new leader in industries is business services, which turned in 9.9% growth. Retail did well, 7.1%, which is a bit of a surprise considering the stories of weak sales and store closings among big retailers. For the last 12 months at least, middle market retailers have been bucking the tough national trend. Let's look at jobs. The second quarter middle market indicator demonstrates once again how powerful an engine of job creation the middle market is, the strongest in the U.S. economy. Over the last 12 months, on average, middle market companies increased their payrolls by 5.7%. And that compares to just a 1.3% net job increase in small business and a 2.5% increase for big businesses. As with revenue, job increases came across the board. A majority, 53% of middle market companies said that they added jobs in the last 12 months. That's the highest percentage we've seen. And just 12% said they downsized, which is a pretty typical number. Retailers surprised us with jobs as they did with revenue. They showed more than 9% annual growth, with business services close behind with 7.8%, followed by construction at 7.5%. The data we've collected yield no obvious explanation for the superior performance of middle market retailers compared with others in retailing. It might be that they're moving into niches vacated by struggling large firms. It might be that their strong local knowledge somewhat inoculates them against pressure from online retailing. Or it might be that their time of trial is still to come. Now, if you look at job creation figures for the middle market as a whole, and the fact that unemployment nationally is low, It's also easy to see why talent management leads the list of management challenges identified by middle market executives. Middle market leaders are generally satisfied with the capabilities of their workforce. Most believe they have high-performing management teams and that their workers are productive and more productive than average. But retaining, recruiting, and training those good people are top-of-mind concerns for executives. And so are wages. Although wages have not been rising as fast as some economists expect and as some employees would like, 42% of middle market companies say they are considering wage increases to attract and retain workers, and another equal percentage are saying that they are considering increasing the flexibility of workforce arrangements. What can we say about the future? The second quarter middle market indicator gives us 4 glimpses to what we might be seeing in the months ahead. The first is the answer to the question we ask, what would you do if you had an extra dollar? Would you put it to work right away or put it aside to use later? 67% of executives say they'd put it to work right away. That's a high number. Usually it's 3 or 4 percentage points below that. As to where they would put that money, well, last year 45% of middle market companies introduced a new product or service, 38% expanded into new domestic markets, and additionally 27% of the largest middle market companies made an acquisition. So the second forward-looking number is the short-term index. This is a number we've derived from looking at executives' view of the business climate, sales, and demand over the next 3 months. That index stands at 91, down a bit from the last quarter, but 20 points higher than it was a year ago. The third forward-looking datum, we ask middle market executives to forecast their company's growth and employment numbers a year from now. These numbers also are higher than they were a year ago, and the jobs forecast, 4.7% growth, is substantially higher than any we have seen in the 5 years of the middle market indicator, with the exception of the first quarter of this year. Finally, the fourth glimpse of the future comes from executives' confidence in the local, national, and global economies. Although the numbers dipped ever so slightly from a quarter ago, the confidence numbers remain well above the trend line and well above the numbers we've seen over the last years. Confidence in local economies stands at 87%, a very high number. 84% is the confidence in the national economy, also very high. And at 70%, the confidence in the global economy is one of the highest we've seen. All 3 figures, indeed, are the second highest we've seen in middle market indicator history and reflect an enthusiastic view of the future. As it looks ahead, optimistically, according to the data, the U.S. middle market retains its position as the place to be for growth and competitiveness, a powerful force driving expansion and job creation, and a cohort of companies that merits the close attention and support of all of us. Our website, middlemarketcenter.org, posts the entire middle market indicator, the data I've summarized here, the full report, and also the raw data files for this and all previous middle market indicators. There's no charge. You will also find, in addition to the MMI, lots of other research and studies about key issues facing middle market companies, such as managing cash better, talent management, cybersecurity, and much more. The URL again is middlemarketcenter.org. And for the National Center for the Middle Market, I'm Tom Stewart.